Hey Divine Ones, it's Jerome Braggs coming to you to continue my video series on shame. Today I want to talk with you about the lies of shame, the lies that shame tell us, and particularly what those lies are, and also how I've held some of those lies in my own life, and how I recognize some of those lies are still operating in me, and how I'm being called to love myself at a deeper level so that I can heal. As always, you guys, I want to share this in hopes that we help ourselves return ourselves to the love of our being, because the biggest thing that disconnects us from loving ourselves is shame. And in my last video, I talked to you a little bit about what shame is, but I want to share with you, particularly today, the five lies that shame tells us that we believe and then that we make real in our lives. Because you remember, whatever we believe, we manifest, because our consciousness is what creates and co-creates our life. So when we believe these shameful things, we begin to create realities that reflect and affirm these things. And I'm going to share with you what I've recognized I've created for myself and what I'm doing to heal that. But I want to share with you first what some of the lies are. Again, shame is a liar. It never tells the truth of us. It never tells the divine truth of us or the whole truth. It always tells a lie. But we believe the lie, and then we begin to manifest evidence. Because again, whatever you believe, you manifest evidence to support that belief. We manifest evidence, so we begin to believe that this is true. But shame is never true. And when I begin to share these things with you, I'm doing this in hopes that you can see possibly where you're holding these in your own consciousness and in your own energy field, where you can start to understand that these are lies and begin to return yourself to the truth, return to do the healing work of loving yourself, like I am in the process of doing as well. So the first lie that shame tells is there's something wrong with me. There is something wrong with me, and because there is, I don't deserve to be loved. I don't deserve to belong. I don't deserve to receive just as I am. Really, until this wrong thing is fixed, or is hidden, or is compartmentalized, or is separated from me, right? And it usually shows up in three areas, right? So there's something wrong with my body. So it could either be the image of my body, like how my body looks, the size of my body, the shape of my body. This is something that I had received a lot of when I was a kid, because I used to get teased for being a bit bigger. I was a thicker kid than the rest of my peers. So I was always teased and called chubby and fat. So I was made to believe that there's something wrong with my body as it is. And as it is, as a thick body, it does not deserve to be loved, and it will not belong. Like, if I stay in thickness, I will not perceive belonging with others, right? That's one thing. So the body, like how the size of it, also the color of it. So as a black male, I received a lot of messages from my environment that there was something wrong with my skin color, that there was something wrong with me because of my skin color, right? That I was, and what we'll talk about here in a minute, that I was less than in some way, or I wasn't enough. But my skin color was wrong. And as I am in my skin color, I don't fully belong, right? And so it could be your skin color, it could be your gender, like for those who are experiencing, who are transgender or binary or non-binary, or non-gendered at all of that. For a lot of people will have the message that there's something wrong with me, something wrong with my gender. So you get that message, one, there's something wrong with my body. The other way that shame shows up is there's something wrong with my identity. So it could be your personality. Like maybe maybe you have, you're really silly, or you have weird quirks, or there's something going, maybe your value system, or maybe even your intuitive gifts, right, may be different from your environment. And so you were made to feel like there was something wrong with you. That was something that I had as well. Because sexuality also fits in this particular portion of the identity. So I had two things happening where shame came in my childhood. One, my intuitive gifts opened for me when I was very young, and I could hear, I could converse with people on the other side. I had a higher awareness of what was actually real, and I also always knew the truth of someone. Like, you couldn't lie to me. I was very empathic, and I could tell what the truth of your being was. But I grew up in a very religious family, and I grew up in a very religious culture and in a very religious state. Like, I am in the buckle of the Bible Belt in the United States. And so one thing I learned, the messages that I got was that was unholy, that was sinful, that was not right, that was something wrong with me. And so I felt that my intuitive gifts would somehow make me not belong, would make me be rejected somehow, would make me not receive love and affection and belonging, which is the basic need and the basic desire of every soul on the planet, of every soul being that comes here. We want connection, we want community, we want belonging, because that's oneness, by the way. And so I was made to believe that, as well as I was also a very sensitive child, so I was empathic. So I was teased for that. I was teased for being sensitive, and especially as a man, as a boy child, we're not supposed to be sensitive. We're supposed to be hard. We're supposed to keep things together. We're not supposed to cry. And so I was teased around that from family, from my peers, etc., for being that. So I was made to feel like something's wrong with my identity. And as my identity is being a sensitive person, being an intuitive person, and being gay, being attracted to the same gender, that was triple. I had a lot of shame in my body, in my energy field, because I felt like I was made to feel like in my environment, in my culture, that all of that was wrong. So that's the first, that's the first message that something's wrong. Those are the first two ways. The last way is your intellect. So you may feel like, so the first two are body image, how your body looks, whether it's the shape, size of it, color, gender. Second thing is your identity. That could be your sexuality. That could be your values, your personality, how you express yourself, who you really are, your authentic expression. The third way is your intellect. So you may believe there's something wrong with your intellect, right? So a lot of kids get teased and say, that's really dumb, or that's so stupid, or you're not as smart as your older brother or your sister, or why can't you get these, if they're not doing well on tests, why can't you do better on this? What's wrong with you? And so what happens is you begin to have this message that there's something wrong with my intellect, my ability to, my wisdom, my understanding, things like that. And that's another way that message of shame gets imprinted in the consciousness and gets imprinted in the energy field. And when I say it gets imprinted in the energy field, the consciousness is what you believe about yourself. Your energy field is what you feel about yourself, how you feel. So going back with me, when I felt something's wrong with my body, I believed something was wrong with my body because it was bigger. How it began to feel for me was I felt unattractive. I felt unlovable, just as I am. And I would move through the world feeling like that. So that's the first lie that shame says, and how we make that real. So you cannot believe something in your consciousness and not manifest it in your life, right? Now, this is different from just thinking something, right? Because you can think something and it not necessarily manifest. But when you believe something, it must manifest, because that is part of the universe's main responsibility. The universe's main responsibility is to make all of our dreams become, not all of our dreams, all of our beliefs become real, become a real experience. We are co-creating in this universe we are co-creating in this dimension, right? We're soul beings having a physical experience, a physical adventure. And part of that adventure is you co-create with this universe your reality. And you co-create based upon what your internal state is, based upon what you believe and how you feel, right? And once you believe something, so it's something you think consistently enough that you believe it to be true, right? It's a truth. And when it becomes truth, you have to get evidence for it. Now, any truth can be changed, because again, it's just something you're thinking consistently, right? You can change it. You can stop thinking it and think something else. And that's actually one of the keys to healing shame, by the way, is to stop thinking something's wrong with you and to think more about what's right with you. But so when you think something's wrong with you, you have to get evidence of it. And that was something that came aware to me around how I had manifested the diseases I was experiencing, HIV and kidney failure. So HIV was literally a manifestation of me feeling that something was wrong with my body and that I was unattractive. The beliefs and the feelings that I had got together and they manifested a life experience for me, which was disease. And the disease was a reflection. You've heard me talk about this a lot, about how diseases are reflections of our internal state. They're not punishments. They're not random. They are literally reflections of our internal state of being in some type of way. My internal state of being was that I am unattractive and there's something wrong with my body as it is. And so HIV was the manifestation of that, because HIV made me feel more unattractive and like something was really wrong with my body, right? And even to go even deeper, and I'm not going to take a lot of time in this video to do this because I will be doing other videos to talk about this, but even deeper than that, HIV is an autoimmune disease where the body almost attacks itself. And that's exactly what shame is. Shame is an attack on the self. That is exactly what shame is. So I literally manifested a direct replica of what was going on inside of me. It was going on internally. I was attacking myself with shame-based thoughts, like I wasn't enough. I was constantly judging myself, criticizing myself, etc. And that led to that. So I made this lie real. And why it's a lie, why this first one is a lie, is because we are soul beings. We are literally incarnations of Source itself. And it's really, God and Source are really limiting words for what it really is. It's so much bigger than that. Like, it really is just all that is. And it really is love. And even in the last video that I did to start this series, I talked about how love is also a limiting word around this, because we often use love for things like, I love French fries, or I love this movie. And love is such a bigger experience than that. Right? It's actually like this, it's the feeling of belonging, that all of you is welcomed, all of you is valued and accepted and appreciated, all of you is free to express, and the feeling of joy and being held and being safe. So having said all that, you are an extension, you are literally a physical manifestation of love. And so there is nothing wrong with you. There can never be anything wrong with you. The only thing that can be quote unquote wrong with you is what you believe is wrong with you. And so what your soul is, and this is what children know when they first come into this plane, when children are first born, babies do not, if you look at a baby, they do not exhibit a belief in there being something wrong with them. They are all over their bodies. You can hardly keep clothes on the child. A little baby is running around trying to be naked. You have to force them to put clothes on. They love their bodies. They don't feel like anything is wrong with their intellect. They don't feel like anything is wrong with their personality. They are just expressing and loving and having a good time. And that is the truth of our being. That's our natural state, until we get taught somehow to believe that there's something wrong with us. So that's the first lie of shame, right? It is a lie that we make real. And even though it's real, we make it real doesn't mean it's the truth. Again, the truth is there's nothing wrong with you. There never is, never will be. And you always belong, because you are belonging itself. You are love itself. That is the truth of our being, that when we hold shame, that our healing is going to require us to reconnect to. That's part of my healing journey now, is to fully reconnect to the understanding that there's nothing wrong with me, right? So I've done work around how my body looks. I've done work around, my color. I've done work around my intuitive gifts. I brought those back into my own heart and belonging. I don't feel like anything is wrong with that. But where I was feeling like something was still wrong with me was... and this is where I was feeling like something was wrong with me, is that I'm actually still healing. And this is something that I've said in kind of skirting and passing throughout, the past few years, but I haven't really just fully said it and been fully transparent and vulnerable with that, is that my body is not fully 100% healed, right? I'm still experiencing kidney failure, and I'm still experiencing things in my immune system. And I hadn't been fully sharing that, right? As a matter of fact, the reason why well-being Wednesdays are and in the evening oftentimes is because I go to dialysis on Wednesdays and I have to come home and rest. Now my body is getting better, right? But what I realized, and this is why I even began to do this series, is what I realized was I was still holding shame in my being. And the shame around these things, these messages of shame, is what was keeping my body from fully getting well. And I'll be doing more videos to go really in detail with this, but I want to stay on topic here. But I just wanted to share that with you in full transparency and genuineness. Even though I help people heal, even though I help people, create and manifest, I myself am still healing physically, like in my physical body. Although I healed the first time, and I shared that in the miraculous healing I had the first time, the second time, my healing is still continuing. So that was number one. The second message of shame is I'm not enough. I'm not enough. So just as I am, right? So again, if you think about those three things, my body, my identity, my intellect, somehow I'm not enough. I'm not enough. Like how I look is not enough. What I have is not enough. Who I'm being is not enough. It's just whoever I am is not enough. And moreover, what it actually is saying is I'm not enough as I am to be loved, to belong, and to receive the good that I want, or the dreams that I want, or the life that I want. I'm not enough. And I must really do something to myself. So either I need to fix myself or improve myself or suppress myself or hide pieces of myself in order to be enough so that I will belong, so that I will be loved, so that I will receive. And this is a lie because you are unconditionally enough. We are unconditionally enough as souls. There is no condition on our enoughness. We are worthy beings unconditionally. We are unconditional love itself, right? And so there's no condition, right? The universe is not saying and not looking at us as beings and saying, if you were smaller or shorter, if you were thinner or more muscular, if you were fatter, if you were lighter or darker, if you had more money in the bank, if you did this, then you would really deserve. The universe says you deserve right now. And the only reason why we don't see that is because we don't believe that. And this is how we make it real. Again, when we believe we're not enough some type of way, we can't manifest a life experience that that bucks that belief. So one of the things that used to show up for me was I used to believe that so going back to being attractive, because that was kind of the biggest thing, was I wasn't attractive enough, right? That was one of my thing. I'm not enough as I am in this body. I need to be different. And particularly, I needed to be thinner and more muscular in order to be attractive. And so what would happen was when I would try to date, I could attract a person that I wanted, right? That I was attracted to. I could always attract who I wanted. The problem was I couldn't keep them. The problem was I couldn't, no matter, and it was a pattern over and over and over and over. And that's how you know when it's a belief and it's a wound, is that there's a pattern that shows up in your life. And so over and over and over and over again, I would attract these guys that were beautiful, were great guys, were great men. And we would have like 2 or 3 or 4 great dates, right? We would have great dates. And then all of a sudden they would lose interest, or they would ghost me and not call, or they would just leave me alone. And it would leave me feeling, again, not enough. And what I realized in the healing of that, when I began to work on healing that process, was what was happening was I was creating relationships that affirmed my belief. Like I couldn't have a relationship that showed me that I was enough, and that really, that the people acted like they loved me and I received love from them and belonging, when I didn't believe I deserved it. When I didn't believe that as I am, I deserved it. And so the thing that changed my relationships was when I began to work on feeling enough, like I look, right? Like this body is enough. My size is enough. I'm attractive enough. There's nothing wrong with how I look, and that I'm a beautiful man, right? That wasn't something that I grew up feeling. And a lot of times that's what happens when when we have this feeling that we're not enough in any kind of way, right? It may not be around your body. I'm just using my specific journey as an example. But wherever you feel you're not enough, you are going to manifest a life experience that is going to mirror that back. That is going to reflect that. And like a teacher said to me many years ago, if you don't like the reflection in the mirror, don't change the mirror, fix your face. Right? So you got to fix what the mirror is reflecting. And that's the belief in not enoughness. And as long as you hold that belief, and as long as you feel not enough in your energy field, you cannot manifest anything that proves differently for you. In order to prove something differently, you have to believe and feel differently. And again, that's the second lie, because the truth of our being is that we are wholly enough. We are wholly worthy, always and in all ways, just because we are souls, not because of what we've done, not because of what we have, not because of how we look or don't look, just because we exist. Just because we exist. And this was something I really had to learn. It took me a long time to really start to learn and really start to work into the truth of my consciousness. It took me a while for that. And I got a bit of that in my near-death experience, but most of that came throughout my healing journey. It was channeled to me. It was given to me by my soul. It was given to me in some of the automatic journaling that I do. It was told to me over and over and over again. But because I had so much shame and feeling I wasn't enough, the understanding that I'm enough just as I am. And I'm going to do another video to talk about what happens when we believe these things. But one of the things that happens when you don't feel enough is you get in this rat race of constantly trying to improve yourself. You're constantly trying to be enough, trying to get to a point where you're enough, right? So that looks like you're a workaholic because you're constantly trying to make enough money, so you feel like you're enough that way. Or you're constantly in the gym and you're a gymaholic because you don't feel like, unless you're ripped and thin, and that you're attractive enough. Or you're constantly dieting, or you're just on this self-improvement rat race. And that's actually what's at the core root of a lot of the self-improvement field is shame. It's not actually love. It's more, I'm trying to improve myself because I don't feel enough about myself as I am. Now, not all self-improvement, but a lot of it. And what I remember one of my good friends said, one of the quotes I love from him is that no amount of self-improvement can make up for a lack of self-acceptance. And that's when you start to feel that you are enough, just as you are, that nothing needs to change about you in order for you to be able to be worthy of belonging, be worthy of being loved, be worthy of receiving. When you do that, you often find that you jump off of that rat race of self-improvement. You stop trying to improve yourself, and instead you just start trying to express yourself. You just try to be yourself. So that's number 2, right? So number 3 is the third lie that shame tells us that we make real, is that I'm less than. And so I'm going to use this same thing with body, because this is one of the biggest things for me was I am less than, like, I'm not as attractive as that guy over there who has a 6-pack and has like ripped arms. I'm less attractive than him because my body's a little more fleshy. My body's a little softer. Right. And I was made to believe in my childhood through being teased. That was my traumatization. That that was less than. That was less desirable. It was less attractive. It was less worthy than that. Right. And again, that's a lie. No matter what your body is, no matter what shape it is, it's beautiful. It's lovable. It deserves to be loved. It deserves to receive pleasure. It deserves to be in a relationship if that's what you're wanting, right? That's because, again, we are worthy beings no matter what your physical form is. The truth of your being is so much bigger than this physical form, and it is always worthiness. But that was the message that I got, was that I was less than. And for a large portion of my life, I struggled with that, right? I was in that rat race of constantly trying all the diets to try and lose weight. Like, I've done every diet, every detox, every fast. pushing my body in the gym, even when my body was super tired, even when it stressed my body, even when it actually hurt and injured my body, I would try to go to the gym because the thought of not doing what I needed to do to lose weight and to tighten up touched on the wound that, oh my God, if I don't do this, I'm not going to be enough. Right. And so anytime I would get on the scale and it wasn't a very low number, I would feel fat and I would feel unattractive. I would feel like I'm not enough. I'm less than, right? I'm less than attractive. And less than also comes from comparison. So the less than only really exists. And shame, this is another thing about shame, it needs comparison. There are a few things that shame need, and I'll be talking to a video about like the things that shame need to exist. But one of the things that shame needs is comparison. So if you didn't compare yourself to anyone else, if you didn't compare your body, if you didn't compare your intellect, if you didn't compare your identity, if you didn't compare what you have or don't have, if you didn't compare your money to anybody else, you would never feel shame about it. Comparison, shame needs comparison. So I'm less than is saying like I'm less than that. And there's so many reasons why that's a lie. One, when you understand who we really are, that person is you. Now, that person may be having a different physical experience than you, but that's you. We are not separate. We are one, having a physical experience, having an illusionary physical experience of being separate. But we are all connected. We're one thing, right? And so I can't be less than you because I am you. And you can't be less than me because you are me. And the other aspect of that too is just because something's different doesn't mean it's less than, right? So thinner doesn't mean better than bigger. Bigger doesn't mean less than thinner. Bigger doesn't mean better than thinner. Thinner doesn't mean less than bigger, right? And on any category and any topic, different is not less than. That is something that has come up in the wounded aspect of our consciousness, more so in the ego part of our consciousness, which is the part of our consciousness that allows us to feel an individualized experience, an individualized reality. The wounds of that really exist in that part of our consciousness that says my individualness is less than yours somehow, and because it's less than, I don't deserve. So again, because my being thicker is less than being thinner, I don't deserve the same amount of love and receiving and belonging as being thinner, right? That was the message in me. And how that manifested in my life was, again, when I was bigger, I did not get a lot of attention, right? I could go to parties, I could go to clubs, I could go to, things specifically set up for dating, and I would see all the thinner guys and all the muscular guys getting all the attention. I wouldn't get any attention until I changed how I felt about myself, right? And it didn't even require me to lose weight, right? Even though I am smaller now than I used to be, but before this started happening before I began to lose the weight, when I just began to change how I felt about myself, right? And I began to really focus on what was attractive about me and stop shaming myself and stop judging and criticizing my body. All of a sudden I saw a 180-degree shift in the type of attention that I get. Right now, I used to not get attention from a lot of attention, or now I get a lot of attention. Right. And so what shifted was, again, how I felt about myself when I shifted from the lie to the truth of my being, which is I am enough. I am beautiful enough. I am safe enough. Whatever the enough is for you, the lie is that you're not enough. Right. And you will, as long as you hold that lie in your consciousness and you begin to feel that in your energy field, you will create and manifest a life experience, a reality that affirms that in some type of way. And the key to healing that and shifting that is not to try and change the outer situations. 'Cause that's what I used to try and do. Like, okay, so this guy doesn't, he doesn't call me, he doesn't appreciate me, then I need to get a new guy. So I go out and try to get a new guy or try to date. And again, the pattern would just happen. No matter how many guys it was that I met, they all were doing the same thing. Until I realized it wasn't about them, it was about me. It was about me. And I had to heal me. And the more I began to heal me, the better I began to have an experience with the type of dates that I had. The better I began to have a type of experience with the type of work relationship I had. All of that. Everything on our external is just a mirror of our internal, right? And when we have shame in our internal state of being, we manifest a shame-based life. And that's not a love-based life. And if we want to manifest a love-based life, we have to do the work of healing our shame and returning our being to love. And I'm still on that path. I've done a lot of work and I've had some miraculous results. But as you'll see in this video series that I'll share, there's still bits and pieces where I'm still on that path, and I'm now doing that work to finally shift those things too. So that's number 3, is I'm less than. The 4th message of shame is that I don't belong and I don't deserve just as I am. And this really is a big message, because how this begins to show up for us when we begin to feel this way. So again, however it is, like, I don't really, I won't belong because of my looks. I won't belong because of my economic status. I won't belong because of my color. I won't belong because of my sexuality. I won't belong because of my intuitiveness or my spirituality. I won't belong because of my personality or my intellect in some way. And what happens when we start to believe this is we try and edit ourselves. We will try and fix and edit, or we'll try to reject a piece of ourselves, or compartmentalize that piece of ourselves that we think doesn't belong, will make us not belong. We will hide it. We'll try and suppress it and push it down and not really express it or bring it into the light, all in terms of trying to belong. Because again, one of the biggest needs that we have as soul beings having a physical experience is the feeling of belonging. So when we believe there's something about us that makes us not belong, we will try and suppress that. We will try to hide it or get it out or fix it or change it or cut it out. And what that does is it makes us not belong to ourselves anymore. We don't belong to ourselves anymore, right? We're not a whole being. We're not existing in our wholeness. And that's why that is a lie, because the truth of our being is the wholeness of us. All of us belongs. All of us belongs in the light. All of us belongs to love. All of us belongs to each other. There's nothing that about our being that deserves to be separated, from the whole, from love. Nothing about us. Like, the universe is not withholding love from us at all. We are withholding ourselves from love. And we withhold ourselves from love by believing there's something about us that doesn't belong and that doesn't deserve. And that's the lie. And again, when we believe that, how we begin to make that real in our lives is we start to manifest experiences and relationships and events where we feel rejected, where we start to feel abandoned, where we feel alone, where we feel like nobody gets us, nobody appreciates us, nobody loves us, where we feel like we don't belong. And I know that this is one of the things that happened for me for a large majority of my life. Was I always felt like I was the oddball out and I didn't belong. I was the weird one. I also felt like in my culture, being a black man, being same gender loving, I didn't belong. Right? Because at that time, I believed that I had the belief that being same gender loving, there was something wrong with that. And so I was manifesting that, and people, affirming that, saying, oh, gay is wrong, or same gender loving is wrong, it's sinful, it doesn't belong here. So I always had these experiences moving through the world where I felt like I didn't belong. And what I realized was it wasn't that because that was just the way the world was set up. It was because that's what the world was reflecting back to me. It was my internal state where I believed that I didn't belong. I was holding shame, saying there was parts about me that didn't belong, and shifting that was doing the work of understanding, but making those things belong back to me first. Right. So meaning that I accepted my sexuality, that I didn't shame it anymore, that I didn't feel that it was wrong, that I accepted my body, that I accepted my spirituality and my intuitiveness. That was the work that I was doing. And the thing I'm still working on is accepting my body. And I'll be sharing that in the next video around how I realized that one of the things I was holding shame around was still dealing with illness, and not fully accepting that in my being. So I'll be sharing that, but that was, and not feeling like I really belonged or that I deserved, especially deserved to be a teacher. That is, so I'll be sharing that in the next video. But that's the fourth message, and the last message of shame is, if I allow myself to be fully seen as I am, I won't be loved. That is one of the messages that shame puts in our consciousness. And it's a poisonous message, because what it makes us do is it makes us hide ourselves. Because when we believe that if we're fully seen, we won't be loved, what we do is we don't allow ourselves to be seen. So that means what we start to do is we start to hide pieces of ourselves, suppress ourselves. We start to pretend and try and be something we're not. We try and cut pieces of ourselves out. We try and repress pieces of ourselves. And we try to put forth this projection of what we believe will be acceptable and approved of and belonging. And when we have shame in our being, by the way, that's one of the things that we start to do, because we don't have our own belonging and we don't have our own approval. That's what shame does. It disconnects us from our own belonging and our own approval. So then we start to seek it externally. And there isn't really anything inherently wrong with getting external belonging and approval. But what happens when you have shame is you do it in unhealthy ways. So you'll suppress pieces of yourself. You'll make compromises. You'll hide pieces of yourself. You'll put yourself in bondage. You will choose toxic relationships and spaces just to have some little sense of approval and belonging, because you don't have any for yourself. Right? And you're trying to get it anywhere in any type of way. And it almost always ends up being toxic. And so that's what kind of happens. And that was one thing that happened for me as well, is I believe that if I allowed myself to be fully seen, especially in my work, that I was still on dialysis, that I was still dealing with the HIV and the kidney failure the second time, if I fully revealed that, then nobody would listen to me. Even though I had had this near-death experience, even though I was channeling, even though I had helped hundreds of people around the world heal themselves and transform their lives, I believed that if I allowed myself fully to be seen, people would think I wasn't enough, because I didn't feel enough, right? So people would think I wasn't enough, so I hid it. I didn't fully express it. I would kind of give half truths about it, or I wouldn't fully be the unedited, raw, authentic, genuine expression of Jerome. And it's not just like your identity, your body, your intellect. It's also everything that you are, everything that you're going through, everything that like what you have or don't have. You know, your health status, your emotional status right now. A lot of times we have shame where, you know, especially in the spiritual field, this is very, very, very common. When you're not feeling high vibrational, right? When you're feeling sad or you're feeling angry, a lot of times what people will do is we'll put these faces on and say, I'm doing no. And when people ask you, prime example, when somebody asks, how are you doing today? What's the main response? Oh, I'm fine. When you're really not. When a lot of times, you know what, I'm really tired today, or I'm actually really pissed about something, or you know what, a family member and I are going through something. I'm kind of sad right now. Like the willingness to just let ourselves be authentic in who we are and what we're going through and how we feel, and all of that is an act of love, and not doing that is an act of shame. And we've touted it as being spiritual, and it's really not. It's actually toxic. The most spiritual thing you can do is to love yourself. And loving yourself is an embrace. It's a belonging. It's that all of you is valuable. All of you belongs. All of you is appreciated. All of you is free to express, right? And so one of the things that my healing is inviting me to do right now is to be fully seen here. Is to be fully seen, to be fully authentic, to tell the full truth, and to not hide anything, to not suppress anything, to not compartmentalize anything, to fully bring it out. And that's how you heal that piece of shame. But those are the 5 messages of shame, and those are how they show up. And so again, when we say I can't allow myself to be seen, or else I won't belong. How we make that real is then we have experiences where pieces of we create experiences in our life where we do reveal a piece of ourselves and we're rejected for it. Right. So you may reveal your sexuality to somebody and they may say, oh, that's wrong. Or you may say something about your illness and somebody kind of shuns away from you. And it's not that. There are two parts of that. One, it could be a projection of their own shame, right? They can't embrace you and welcome you because they haven't embraced and welcomed their self and what they're dealing with. But also it's a reflection of your shame. Is a reflection of where you're not embracing and belonging to your own being. So that's kind of how we make that real, right? Again, when we believe something in our consciousness, we have to manifest experiences, relationships, and events that affirm and reflect that belief. Whether that belief is based in love or whether it's based in fear, which is what shame actually is fear. So when we have shame-based beliefs, we create a shame-based reality. And the key to healing that is to come back to the truth of our being, right? So the truth of your being on this fifth one is that the safest thing that you can do is be yourself, is to be seen, is to bring all of you out of the shadows into the light, because the light is where you belong. The light is you. So you're really bringing all of yourself up to yourself. And then up to the embrace of yourself. And I've seen this time and time and time again in the times that I've done this in my past. Whenever I've brought a secret that I've been hiding about myself, right, that I've not been allowing to be seen. Whenever I brought it to the light, I brought it out of the shadows. Now, my knees were knocking because I was scared as shit to do so. It's not like I just did it and was like, yay, here it goes. No, because the shame is fear. It says, if you allow yourself to be seen, you're going to lose everything. They're going to withdraw from you. You're going to lose your community. You're going to lose your love. You're going to lose your tribe. You're going to lose your money, right? Shame gives you all those messages, which are lies. But whenever I've done that, whenever I brought the thing that I was ashamed about and I brought it to the light, what I have found is very few times have I lost relationships or lost connections or lost money or lost something. Most of the time, I've gained more. Most of the time, every time I felt more loved. Now, I may have lost a little bit, but what I gained was so much more than what I lost. And I always felt more loved. Because the truth of our being is the whole of us. Our authentic being is what is unconditionally loved by life itself. And so when we share it, when we bring it forward, what we experience is love. But when we don't, what we think we're doing is protecting ourselves from love. Protecting ourselves from losing love. When we hide ourselves and don't allow ourselves to be seen, don't be vulnerable, don't be honest, don't be transparent, what we think we're doing is protecting ourselves from losing love. But what we're doing to ourselves is making ourselves lose love. Because the only thing that is fully unconditionally loved is our authentic self, not our pretend self. Our authentic self is what is authentically loved. And we don't ever really experience the fullness of love that life has for us when we're hiding. And when we're not allowing ourselves to be seen. So I just wanted to share that with you all today. I hope these understanding what the 5 lies of shame helps you kind of see more clearly into yourself and maybe see where you're holding those and where you need to have some work in healing those and do some work. And again, the way to heal shame is to love yourself more. Love is the only thing that heals fear. Love is the only thing that heals fear, and shame is fear. So in order to heal the shame, you have to love yourself. I am doing the work now of loving myself. I'll be doing videos to tell you exactly how I'm doing that. But I just wanted to share with you the 5 lies of shame so that we can stop telling ourselves that and we can stop believing these lies. Shame always lies. It never, ever tells the truth. It's time to stop believing it so we can heal and be the love-based beings we really are and create the love-filled lives we really deserve. Until next time, you guys, much love. Bye.